Hello and welcome to IWS for episode 2. So, what we're going to talk about today. First of all, I'd like to say my boyfriend is away on holiday. It was his birthday a couple of weeks ago, so he's gone away for 2 weeks and he's not back until the end of the month. So, he said one thing before he left. He's like, absence makes the heart go fonder, and I got to tell you, I didn't think I could get any fonder than I was before, but with his absence, it's like, I'm missing him absolutely every single day without fail. Thinking about him, talking to him, trying to talk to him because the time difference is so long. So it literally means that we've got to schedule maybe every other day or something along those lines to chat to each other. But definitely sending messages. But again, because of the time difference, my morning is his night is my morning. Or his daytime is, you know what I mean. Anyway, so it makes it even more complicated. I honestly believe that God set it up this way just to see how we would get on. Because it's kind of like the first time that we've been physically away from each other for this length of time. So it doesn't mean that we see each other every day. No, we definitely don't. But we could do if we wanted to, and there's something in that where you feel like even though you don't, if you had the opportunity to and you could, it gives you that level of security, that level of comfort. But when you're thinking you're in this situation where he's all over on the other side of the country or the world, and experiencing different things, and your day suddenly becomes so different to how his day is. The kind of things that he's doing is totally different from the things that you're doing. So, and it's like, how does all of that come together? How do you still ensure that your relationship is kept alive and you yourself feel secure? And I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is about the security, because when you are no longer in control of things that you were kind of you thought you were in control of, you get a sense of, you kind of get a sense of loss in a way. But in this whole period, you really got to find a way to balance it out. And you've got to find a way to balance it out quickly, because you cannot allow that time to impact on your life and to impact on the things that you do in such an adverse way that you end up doing nothing. So, and I'm not saying you've got to pack yourself with things to do to distract, because in one way, it's actually good to have the feeling of missing somebody, because then you know what it's like. You know that actually I value that person in my life, because when that person is not in my life, I miss them. Yeah. So, but although it's not it's not the best of feelings to have, I'd rather have I'd rather have that feeling of comfort when you're by my side. But it is a feeling nevertheless, and it is a feeling that is relaying a message to you. And I hope he misses me too, because if he doesn't miss me, then I think we've got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So hopefully, no, he is missing me. He tells me he misses me, so I know he's missing me. If anything, he's missing the fact that I can bombard him with so much stuff on a day-to-day basis. Anyway, I didn't come to talk to you about my boyfriend. You're probably thinking, you know what, we need to have a different show, because 50% of the show is me, 50% of the show is him. But no, it's it's all me. But I can't but help bring him into the conversation, because he's part of my life now, and I'm glad about that. So yeah. Anyway, today I want to talk about boundaries. And if you go back a few seasons, I've already spoken about boundaries. But when I spoke about boundaries in that on that occasion, it was about really setting up boundaries for everybody that comes into your way. So, it's in order for you to be able to determine if somebody is right for you, you can't have favoritism for one person over another. So it's a kind of like, this is the boundary that I'm setting. So these are the things that I will do. So this is the things that I will do on my first date. These are the things that I'll do when I'm talking to you. These are the things that are not allowed. So for example, after 10:30 at night, don't call me. Those are the kind of boundaries that you're setting at that point, and that goes across the board. And I remember saying in that time is that sometimes it's very difficult to set those boundaries, because sometimes you want to give somebody a little bit more than somebody else because you actually like that person a bit more than the other person. And it's like, well, but you can't, by you doing that, you're kind of like skewing the boundaries. So you need to almost have like a boundary that's set across the whole board. But the boundaries that I'm talking about now is really about the boundaries of your relationship. Because when you're coming together, it's you, your partner, and then there's this thing called the relationship. You are not the relationship, he's not the relationship. Together, you're not the relationship. The relationship is an entity on its own, and what you're both there to do is preserve that relationship. That is your only task. Your only task at this point is to preserve that relationship. And in order for you to preserve it, you need to be able to put boundaries around it. Because if there's no boundaries, what are you preserving? What's allowed, what's not allowed. So this is what I call when I say the boundaries. And it's kind of like, it's not like a let's sit down and have a hard discussion and determine what our boundaries are. It's not like that. It's a gradual process. And I think by the time you've established your boundaries and you've tested it and you know that it works and you're both comfortable and you're happy, you're kind of like ready to actually move to the next phase. So in part of this phase is really going through and establishing what that boundary is. And some things are very straightforward. So one thing is that, what sits within the boundaries is where we go to church, for instance. So is it okay for us to go to different churches, or do we feel comfortable going to the same churches? Does it matter, or do you not want me in your church at all? It's possible. So you're setting the relationship, and you're setting the boundaries around the relationship. So, and the thing is there may be some things that are very simple, you kind of like will say, we both like going away on holiday. So when we go away on holiday, we always go together. That's a boundary. So therefore, you will never go on holiday, although it's not a boundary in our case, clearly, because he's away and I'm here. How did he get back into the conversation? I do not know. But if that was your boundary, then it will be that every single time you go away on holiday, you're going together. You do not do holidays with other people that are not within your relationship kind of bubble boundary. But it's a discussion that you have and you both agree on it. Now, what happens if you are in a situation where something is kind of like important to one person and it's not important to the other? This is where you start to get clashes. And this is where you've got to kind of like be really careful, because you can't just create an automatic boundary and say, for instance, I don't want you to see your friends, period, full stop, because we're in a relationship now and I should be enough. Okay, you can say that, but then you got to realize that your partner came with things and part of that would be their life, their friendships, and so on and so forth. So that kind of almost like a flat, blunt, this is the situation and I'm sticking to it, is not going to work. However, you may need to set boundaries about what those relationships are like. So for example, if you see that those relationships are being a little bit toxic to your partner, it may well be that actually, I don't want to be part of a toxic relationship, and therefore that person brings Use another word, Clara, because you're clearly not going to get that word in this short space of time. You don't want them to bring that bad negative vibe, let's say that, bad negative vibe into your relationship, and therefore there's a boundary. So it may well be that, you can be friends with them, but wherever we're both around, I don't want to be around that. So therefore, don't bring them into our relationship. Don't invite them over for dinner. Don't invite them over to the pub where we are. And don't invite them to things that, where we're hanging out together. So that could be something that you would discuss. And again, the outcome of the discussions determines where your relationship is. Because if it is something that is, if it's a red, not a red flag, but a deal breaker for you, then it's a deal breaker for the relationship if the other party doesn't see the things eye to eye with you. So if they're like saying, I really don't care, I'm going to bring them in, I'm going to entertain them, I'm going to invite them, and you're just going to have to sit down and be happy with it, well then, maybe that's a sign of some things to come. Maybe that's a red flag. Maybe that's a, I don't think so. Maybe that's a see you later kind of scenario. But it's entirely up to you. If you think that you can deal with it, if you think you're okay with it, hey, put it in the relationship. Put a boundary around it that's allowed, But if you know, like here, that this is something that you cannot deal with long term, like never mind like for today or tomorrow, but what about long term? What about 6 months down the line? 9 months, 1 year, 10 years, 15 years. Can you deal with that? If you can't, then it's best you just cut the ties there and then. So when you're creating these boundaries, it is about you discussing them together. Now, like for instance, like a real deep boundary is, for instance, can you still be friends with people that you've dated? Like, is that a boundary that is set that is not part of this relationship? So if we're in this relationship, then you really can't be friends with someone that you've dated. And likewise, I can't be friends with someone I've dated. It's a discussion. And then depending on what you determine, will determine whether it comes into your relationship or it's not in your relationship. What's really important is that you've got to set these things. There is no way on earth that you can have a relationship that you're not intentional about. You've got to have these intentional boundaries, because you can't think, oh, it's just gonna, it's just for now. When we get married, things are gonna change. No, darling, they will not change. They will not change. And the thing is, there's nothing that you can stop when you're in your marriage, when you're married, that you allowed when you were dating. Honestly, you can't. You can't go, well, now that we're married, you shouldn't. No, girlfriend. No, boyfriend. It shouldn't be that. It should be, if there are issues, this is what this period is about. If there are things that you need to work through them before you get into your marriage. Make sure that they're sorted. Make sure you've got an understanding. There's no point being miserable on a day-to-day basis. If something upsets you, open your mouth and speak. Tell your partner it upsets you. Tell your partner why it upsets you, and then talk about it. And you will come to some sort of conclusion. And hopefully, conclusion may well be a compromise on both parts, but that's what it's all about. You're two independent people coming together to build this relationship, and you're building it together, and you're going to have your views. He's going to have his views, you're going to have your views, she's going to have her views, but what you're trying to do is you're building something which is common to you. And the more common ground that you can have, the bigger this relationship is going to be, the stronger it's going to be, the better it's going to be. The more assumptions you have in this relationship, the weaker it's going to be, the easier it's going to fall or crash. So you've got to make sure that you're intentional, and you can pinpoint anything on your relationship and you can go, well, actually, that's not what we discussed. That's not part of what we said. That's not part of the agreement that we made, Then you've got a legitimate point. But when you're just like saying, well, I thought that you were going to do this or you were going to do that, then, thoughts can be dangerous, because someone can turn back and go, well, what made you think like that? Because I never said I was going to. And they will be absolutely right. So my whole point is you got to set your boundaries around this relationship that you're both protecting. It's in both your interests to protect that relationship, because this relationship, This is the thing that's going to be taking you through marriage. This is the relationship that's gonna help bring up your children and build upon all the things that you need to do whilst you're on this world. This is the relationship, and if you don't get it right from the start, it's gonna fail. And I'm not saying that to be bad or horrible or what have you. I'm saying that because it's truthful, and it's because, like, you know, I've been in relationships before and they failed for this very reason, because I have been either too afraid to stand up, or I have made assumptions. Fear is another thing, because, like, if you're afraid to talk about stuff in your relationship, then there's a problem, because that means that you don't see yourself on equal grounds, and you got to see yourself on equal grounds. So, you know, if you don't think that you can say anything to your partner, like, hey, to my boyfriend, I can tell him anything, like, you know, it might take a couple of days sometimes, and maybe some things that I'm thinking, I don't know how he's going to take it, so I've got to frame it in a particular way. So I might take some time to, like, you know, to mull over it, because it's not about trying to belittle them, or it's not about trying to cause friction or even anything like that. It's about trying to deliver a message in love. So I might take a few days, but then, you know, I'd say to him, hey, can we have a talk? Can we have a conversation? You know, like, yeah, I love you and everything, but can we talk? And then we'll have a talk, and then he'll hear my viewpoint, I'll hear his viewpoint, and then we'll, at the end of the day, kind of like decide, yeah, okay, maybe you're right, or I'm right, or we're both right, we're both wrong, or we're just going to kind of like compromise on something that's going to work for both of us. But it cannot be a stumbling block, because once that's done, then you know what's in the relationship. You know, the stumbling blocks are more when somebody doesn't see your viewpoint. So if you bring something to the table and they don't see your viewpoint, that's a stumbling block. It doesn't mean that your viewpoint is right, or that's what they're going with, but it just means that they've seen you, and they know that whatever you're bringing to the table is something that is impacting you, something that is hurting you, something that, you know, is making you sad. And, you know, my boyfriend says to me, whenever I'm sad, he's sad. Bless him. Okay. I just had a moment. Oh my gosh. Anyway. Yeah, so, and that's how it's supposed to be. And if he's unhappy, I'm unhappy, because, like, essentially, you know, we've both got vested interest in the relationship that we're building. And it, you know, and it has to work, because we want it to work. So we put all our efforts to making sure that it works. So yeah, so that's it. That's what I want to talk about in boundaries. So it's basically what's in the relationship and what's out of the relationship. And unfortunately, the things that are out of the relationship, with time, will just drop off. They will just drop off. So, but when I talk about what's in the relationship, it's not like what you two do together. It's what's allowed within the boundaries of you being together. So it doesn't mean that you can't hang out with other people and what have you. No, because that's what you would have agreed on. You would have agreed on, it's okay for you to have friends that are not my friends. It's okay for you to hang out with people that I don't know. It's okay, but it may be that, okay, I might not know them, but, you know, if you're hanging out with somebody that's new, I want to know who that new person is, vice versa. So those are the boundaries that you set within the relationships. I hope that makes sense. So what I'm not trying to say to you is that the boundary is just like, it's just me, you, and that's it, and everything else, you know, falls off. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what is allowed within the realms of your relationship, and that relationship becomes who you both are together, and how you both are together, and how your journey is together. That's what I'm trying to say. And I hope I've said it correctly, and I hope I've not offended anybody by saying what I'm saying, but it's the truth. Well, maybe that was probably a little bit strong, but what I mean is that, you know, if you get your relationship right, then you are onto a good start, because your foundation is strong. Anyway, that's it for today. So looking forward to seeing you next time. I hope that has helped you. If you are, like, you know, at the point where I'm at, or if you are still in, you know, season 1 or season 2, be assured that you will get to this point. Or if you've actually, you've gone past this point and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my relationship is struggling, I don't know why, I'm thinking, yeah, you know what, have a conversation, sit down, pluck up the courage, because I know sometimes it could be difficult, and just see, like, can we actually salvage something from our relationship? Can we make something that we're intentional so we can build? And if the answer is no, then maybe there's just some decisions that you're going to have to make as well. Like, I always seek God as well in everything. So seek God. If you're a Christian, seek God in everything, and keep asking him for the next steps to take, and he will show you the path to take. He's always showing me the path. He's always showing up for me, and I'm so grateful to God that he's given me such a fine gentleman, because, like, absolutely, he's the best thing. I wouldn't say the best thing since sliced bread, because, like, yeah, I think that he's just like, for my life, he is the best thing that God has put into my life. And we just keep going from strength to strength, which is great. So yeah, thank you, God. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.